What is this? The exit? The entrada?
Allá entras y pagas,
Oh, sí.
pero allá
So
puedes entrar.
sobre.
Okay.
Sobre. Okay. My friend here. We're Israelites. You read the Bible? You read the Bible? So we're from the 12 tribes of Israel. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Naphtali, Asher. New peninsula that they're making there. Very humid, very warm, very cloudy. And it's early in the morning. So let me show you a brief history of the Panama Canal, something that I know that you may not know. And this is the reason for my drive when it comes to traveling abroad, knowing the history of our people, knowing the history of the Negroes and the indigenous Indians who are scattered abroad. This is the reason why I've been traveling since 2002, teaching the truth.
Most of the men who built the canal were not Americans assigned to bachelor quarters, but tens of thousands of desperately poor workers from impoverished Caribbean islands who were housed under far more primitive living conditions and worked for far less money.
The laborers paid 90 cents a day, and their meals were 9 cents. Their quarters were provided, and the rest, of course, was up to them whether they saved it or spent it.
There was only one thing equal between the Americans and the massive black labor force: the possibility that tropical diseases would claim their lives. It was a reality that Roosevelt had faced during the Spanish-American War. Unlike the Suez, Panama was a savage tropical terrain, a swampy, overgrown land that would not easily bend to the will of man. But with the support of the French people and millions of dollars in investment capital, de Lesseps and his team of eager young men began their 9-year exercise in futility. Problems began immediately. Due to an 8-month rainy season, the jungle grows at an outstanding rate with razor-sharp grasses and ferns which easily cut through the skin. This all had to be cleared by hand. And the jungle was home to a savage variety of insects, spiders, ticks, mosquitoes, poisonous snakes. The French engineers and their laborers from local Caribbean islands were dying in rapid fashion. 75% of all workers who entered the hospital for treatment of smallpox, typhoid, yellow fever, food poisoning, or snakebite died painfully, prematurely. It was not uncommon for workers to be ground under the wheels of the speeding trains, caught unaware due to the deafening noise at the site. But Teddy Roosevelt was pleased with the progress. The American effort was digging in a single day what the French had taken a month to match. One giant sweep, depositing millions of tons of soil to create a huge earthen dam 1.5 miles long, a half-mile thick at the base. It would take that much volume to hold back the water of the huge man-made lake. Meanwhile, in the cut, 61 million pounds of dynamite was the primary tool for moving earth. The explosive force was equal to all the firepower used in all the wars the United States had fought up until that time. Often the tropical heat would make the dynamite unstable. It would explode unpredictably. A sudden blast killed 27 men in a single blinding instant. Other workers were killed or injured by flying debris. Funerals were as regular as rain. Drainage ditches were cleaned of standing water where mosquitoes breed. Swamp grass was trimmed to allow small fish to feast on the insect larvae. Ponds and puddles were sprayed with a film of oil to kill the newly hatched insects. Living quarters were fumigated, and insect screens were attached to windows. As the environment was being controlled, massive shipments of sanitation materials arrived. 120 tons of insecticide, 8,000 pounds of soap, thousands of buckets, brooms, and rakes. In a few months, the men had accomplished the impossible. By Christmas of 1905, yellow fever had been eliminated in Panama. But health did not come cheaply. Every mosquito killed cost the United States government $10. But the government went even further to protect the workers. The men were prescribed regular rations of quinine. But quinine was distributed to workers in a racially segregated way. American men were labeled as gold employees and the black Caribbean laborers as silver employees. When canal construction began full force, new dangers surfaced. The hardest work was in the Culebra Cut, where whole mountains were removed to carve a path 8 miles long, 300 feet wide, 50 feet deep. This man-made gorge would later be filled with the cooled waters dammed from the Chagres River. Until then, the men worked in 120-degree temperatures to blast away sliding hillsides and dig 200 trainloads of earth every day. 50 to 60 steam shovels were operating at any one time in a choreographed dance with non-stop locomotives.
The mistreatment of blacks and indigenous Indians are still present in the Panama Canal cities today. Seeing it for myself, if you saw it for yourself, you'll notice the misfortunes right away. You'll see it in housing, you'll see it in employment, medicine, education, and poverty. You'll see the Deuteronomy 28 curses. You'll see the whites and the Arabs benefiting in every way in that particular community. One thing I did notice about the people in the Panama Canal is this, that they're very hospitable, they're very friendly, they're very loving, but their education has brainwashed them like the rest of the world. The truth was taken to the Panama Canal and the truth was distributed. We pray that this information wake up the whole island. The Most High tells us, who will stand up for me? Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? In Psalms 94. This is what we're supposed to be doing. No one should be angry at what we're doing with those who are evil. All we're doing is doing what he commanded. Wake up the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered amongst the Gentiles, pursuant to Tobit chapter 13, verse 3. The Israelites are scattered amongst the Gentiles. What's wrong with waking up the people for the creator of the earth? That's our job. In Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 18, it reads, And of Zebulun, he said, Rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents, because Judah and Issachar came from the mountains into this mountain to help build the Panama Canal. They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of treasures hid in the sand. That's the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So stay tuned and watch. city of Panama. This is where the fishermen are. It's where they make their living. Everywhere, even the ships. King is Yahawashi. So I'm going to show you what Yahawashi, his instructions were. They hear not your words, which they will not hear the words of the Israelites, the true biblical people of the Bible. We are to do something. We are supposed to teach the 12 tribes of Israel of Negroid and Indian descent. How do we know that? Through history and exploration prove that the Negroes who have been scattered all over the earth are the true biblical Israelites. And in Matthew 10 and 5, it says, go out and teach the 12 tribes of Israel, not the Samaritans, not the Gentiles. So, as you have seen before in some of my other footage, we're in Panama. We're gonna, come on. We're gonna go inside this place. That looks like the 12 apostles. That's my guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then they got Mary at the very top. How about that? What's that tell you? This church is about the Catholic Church. Right. And this is their square. And this is what we're supposed to do, Matthew chapter 10, verse 11. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till you go thence. And when you come into an house, salute it. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words, when you depart out of the house or city, shake off the dust of your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. The Catholic Church don't want to hear this truth. So they've already condemned themselves. They've already sent us into captivity. So they've already condemned themselves. The only thing we have not been doing is shaking off the dust of our feet on these different religions. And so let me be the first. I've dust my feet off. It'll be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah than this place. Outside, Shalak Rayam, this whole place. This whole building, Shalak Rayam, this whole building, for indoctrinating our people on the first days of the colonial period. Look at what they got on their windows. Mary, she's not the Savior. Yahawashi, Yeshua is the Savior. This is demonic. And there's so much dogma and indoctrination of our people here. Layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. Almost impenetrable to get to their brains unless you're in the truth and able to put forth the information of the truth. It's a sit down, really. This government is ran by Esau and by Ishmael. And they got a hold on this place. When I tell you they got a hold on this place, they have. When I tell you Ishmael has mansions, they got mansions. I wish I had filmed it. They got mansions that you would never even believe. And so does Amalek. They got a stronghold on this whole place. It's going to take the power of HAMASHAYACH HAMASHAYACH to penetrate through this place. All praise to the Most High Yahweh. All right, just to give you a background on what Panama is all about, there's a lot of history in Panama and Colombia. This book is called People of African Ancestry in Panama, 1501 to 2012. Second edition by Melva Lo D. Gooden. This book was published in 2017. I'm going to go to page 37. There's not much information that you can find abroad about Panama, but if you go to Panama, there's many different books that you can see and read, and many museums all throughout Panama. This is the abolition of slavery in 1851. I'm going to go straight to the point. This is right before the Panama Canal got built. But this enslaved condition in perpetuity would come to an end on January 1st, 1852. In a definite and radical manner, when slavery was totally abolished on the Isthmus, the island, as in all the Colombian territories, because before Panama was Panama, it was part of the Colombian country. With the end of slavery, the inhabitants of the Isthmus were forced to establish relations with other groups of immigrants during the pre-Republican and Republican eras. And when it talks about they were forced to establish relations with other groups of immigrants, this is talking about blacks who came from Africa, blacks who came from Spain, blacks who came from France, those who came from the islands, also the Mexicans, the Guatemalans, all these different immigrants who went to the Isthmus for jobs after slavery was abolished. All right, let's go to this page, page 39. Historical events during the pre-Republican and Republican eras. The construction of the Trans-Isthmian Railroad, 1850 to 1855. So before they started construction on the canal, they had to get railroads into that area. Panama achieved its independence from Spain on November 28, 1821, and immediately its leaders voluntarily annexed the Isthmus to Greater Colombia, also known as New Granada. The subsequent separation of Panama from Gran Colombia occurred in 1903, which coincided with the period when the United States began to show an increasing interest in the Isthmus. Soon as slavery was abolished, then a plan got activated. The United States wanted to take over the Panama Canal. In 1848, the government of Gran Colombia, the United States, ratified the Mallarino-Bidlack Treaty, which gave the United States the right to intervene on Panamanian territory if free transit or the sovereignty of Gran Colombia were in danger. With the discovery of gold in California in 1848, the period known as the Gold Rush, transportation across the Isthmus became vital to the United States, since it was faster and safer to travel from the east coast of the United States and cross the Isthmus of Panama to get to the west coast. Nueva Granada Grand Colombia, signed a contract with the Panama Railroad Company. So all these plans were already sought out. All right. This is Psalms chapter 83 all day. They already had a crafty plan, a crafty counsel, right? Because slavery had ended. So now they had to put all these slaves to work. A U.S. consortium formed by John Lloyd Stevens, William H. Aspinwall, and Henry Chauncey to build the Trans-Isthmian Railroad beginning in May 1850. Its construction was completed in 1855, and according to historian Michael Conniff, 1985, 17, those are footnotes, the majority of the 5,000 workers employed on the project came from the island of where? Jamaica. See that? Now, many of us in the United States don't know much about this riot. This riot is very significant in Panama. The riot is precipitated by a slice of watermelon, April 15th, 1856. Now, the thing about South America is those heroes that they normally acknowledge, they will never tell you the color of the heroes. Most of the time, the color of the heroes are of African descent or African American Indian descent. Okay? If you ever get time, read about the Watermelon Rebellion. It's about a brother who's selling watermelon down in Panama, and a soldier from America was hungry and he wanted a piece of watermelon, but he did not want to pay for it. So the brother who was selling the watermelon told him, hey, you can't get a piece of watermelon unless you pay for it. And so there was a fight that happened after that. And this started a rebellion where U.S. soldiers had to go down there and fight. So to give you a small smidgen of a clip on this, and you know how these Caucasian men who are soldiers with a little clout go somewhere, they get gung-ho. And this man that was gung-ho met another brother who was just as gung-ho, if not more. And it turned out to be a mess. Let's go to this page. This is page 52. And it reads, this is West Indian migration for the construction of the railroad. This was the first thing that happened in Panama. It reads here, even though there were migrations of individuals in small groups of West Indians to Panama during the pre-colonial and colonial periods of Panamanian history, the historical documents available concur that the first significant migration of West Indians to the Isthmus of Panama occurred for the construction of the railroad. Between 1850 and 1855, the majority of the immigrants came from the island of Jamaica. Ames McGinnis, in his book, Path of Empire, provides details of the types of labor problems faced by George Totten in 1850. When he assumed the responsibility as chief engineer to build the railroad, for example, large number of laborers defected, and the Panamanian laborers did not last on this job. Therefore, the company was forced on repeated occasions to import more laborers from places like the United States and Jamaica. They're not telling you that a lot of immigrants also came from Guatemala and Mexico. At the beginning, Totten did not want to employ Jamaicans to work on the railroad, not only because he found their racial characteristics undesirable, but also because he feared that they would be the source of conflict with other laborers given the existing attitudes of racial prejudice. Those other laborers were coming from the other central countries of America. This is page 54. This is needed to be read. West Indian migration of the construction of the canal. According to Waterman, during the decade of 1870 to 1880, another group of West Indian immigrants arrived on the Isthmus in response to the demand for workers on projects related to the French attempt to build a canal. Headed by Ferdinand de Lesseps, builder of the Suez Canal, in May 1884, more than 18,000 workers were listed on the payroll, which was probably the highest number of laborers during any period of the French administration. You know, as soon as the French administration quit, then the United States picked up the slack. Many of those workers come from Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, and a major portion from Jamaica. With the failure of the French project in 1889, 13,000 workers from Jamaica, Barbados, and St. Lucia were left stranded in Panama. So when you go to Panama, you will see the children of all these men that were left behind. And those children are the men and women that live in Panama today. The British authorities repatriated more than 7,000, but this episode seriously damaged the image of Panama as the dream destination to which so many traveled in the hope of becoming wealthy. So who are they talking about of the hopes of becoming wealthy? This is talking about the Europeans, the United States Americans, the white Europeans. So this damaged the image of Panama because they didn't want to go there and find a bunch of Negroes and American Indians wandering around looking for work. As a consequence, the Jamaican government did whatever was possible to impede immigration to Panama for the American construction project. So I wanted you to see that so you understand why all these brothers went to Panama. They went there for work. First it was a train, then it was a canal. And that's why the Europeans and Americans really didn't care how many bodies or how many people they lost when they lost them due to diseases, malaria, all the different diseases that come, typhoid, all the different diseases that come with dealing with mosquitoes and swamps and lakes and, you know, the engineering mechanisms that would kill people. That stuff right there, they didn't mind taking a loss on the bodies of slaves. All right, just so you know. All this goes into Deuteronomy 28. But these people are the Israelites. They were transported from Africa into the West Indies, and then they came over to the Panama Canal, Colombia, Panama. They worked in the mines in Colombia. All right, as you will see as I go on in this video, you'll see what I'm talking about. This book is called A Critical Review or Annals of Literature, A Society of Gentlemen, volume the 57th. And this was printed in London in 1783. We're going to go to page 140. The reason why I'm bringing this out is because when you see me dusting off my feet, you'll know the reason why I'm dusting my feet off in these churches. This is the reason for our slavery. This is the reason why the Negroes and American Indians went into captivity, right here. And I will start to read here. It says, Pope Nicholas V and that famous bull by which he granted the unknown world to the Portuguese and Spaniards. What's the unknown world? Africa and America. Expressly permitted and ordered the Christians to reduce all infidels into slavery. So that meant if you were a Moor or a Jew or believed in anything else, you were reduced to slavery. An order zealously executed by both these nations. In the meanwhile, the Portuguese were advancing nearer and nearer to the countries abounding in gold. What countries were those? Africa and America. And discovered in the progress of their navigations many useful and valuable articles of trade. So who is the Pope putting in captivity? Who are they reducing into slavery as infidels? The Jews, the Negroes. They are the true Jews. The American Indians, they are the true Jews. And those of Latino descent that was sent from Spain and Portugal to the Americas and to Africa, those are the Jews. Okay?
We must call this what it is. It is extremism. It is dangerous. It is repellent. It is monstrous, and I condemn it in the strongest possible terms.
Let's drop down. It reads, Professor Springle devised a history of the Negro trade, to make it clear so you can understand, carried on by Christians, like we read above, into two principal periods. The first from 1443 to 1645, and the second from 1645 to present time. So there was 2 times they took us into captivity, from this segment of years to this segment of the years. And this went all the way into the 1890s, some early 1900s, some believe. The first period is the time of its increase. So this period was the time of the increase of slavery, during which not only in founders the Portuguese, but the English, the Dutch, and the French dealt in Negro slaves, though chiefly for the use of consumption of the Spaniards, and the sugar and tobacco plantations in the Brazils. During the latter period, these foreign nations were obliged to share that trade with the Swedes. They're not exempt either. The Danes, the Brandenburgers, this is a family, the North Americas, and since 1778, with the Spaniards, because they went into America, went into Colombia, went into Panama, they tried to take Aruba, they went into Brazil, they hit all these islands in the West Indies and reduced everyone to slaves. The Tainos, the Caribs, reduced them to slaves. Let's drop down. This tells you that they were Jews. Prince Henry colonies were enlarged by his successors. King John II in 1492 expelled all the Jews to the island of St. Thomas. Where's St. Thomas? Well, you have one in Africa, that's in the Gulf of the Western Hemisphere of Africa, which was a plantation island. Then you have the St. Thomas in the West Indies. So this one here is talking about the one in Africa. It says, which had been discovered in 1471, and to other Portuguese settlements on the continent of Africa. And from these banished Jews, the black Portuguese, as they are called, and the Jews in Luango's in Africa, who are despised even by the very Negroes, are descended. Okay, so if this is a tongue twister for you, let me explain to you that there were Jews in Spain and Portugal and France and Britain and England and the Netherlands, and they were all expelled out of those areas because they did not want to become Christians. And they were all black Jews. So they expelled them out into Africa amongst the Jews who were already in Africa, who fled from Jerusalem in 70 AD, who made a kingdom in Africa. So they put them around them. That's why it says, who are despised even by the very Negroes are descended, or that they are descended from. See that? So all these Negroes and Native Indians that are in the Americas that were serving captivity and slavery, they were all Jews of the 12 tribes of Israel. Let's do a tracking on how the Jews were sent from different countries in Europe down into Africa and then to the Americas. So it says here on page, was that 142? And let's drop down here. It says, he also deserved well of the commerce of America by procuring by his remonstrances, maybe butchering that the Negro slaves, who before, like all other necessaries, had been sent from Seville or other Spanish harbors, were to be directly transported from Guinea to the West Indies. And that, of course, America was more expeditiously furnished with the laborers wanted. Las Casas proposal was executed in 1517. Check out those dates. The Court of Trade at Seville appointed 4,000 Negroes to be annually transported to the islands of Domingo, Fernandina, Puerto Rico, and Jamaica, and Charles V granted the monopoly of the slave trade. They had a monopoly on the slave trade to his counselor and major domo de la Breses for 8 years, who in his taxes or SARS, who in his Tara, it looks like Tara, sold his grant for that time in some Genoese for 25,000 ducats. So he sold to the French who were in the Americas. The trade of these farmers probably ceased with the term of the 8 years, as the Genoese sold their slaves to dear, and as Portuguese were become very jealous of the trade of other nations to Guinea. So there was a monopoly. This is just like the credit. If you look at people's credit today, if you have bad credit, it's supposed to last for 7 years, right? But if you do nothing about it, your credit or your debt gets sold to another creditor, and they take on your debt for another 7 years where you have to make payments, right? So you never get released from your debt. This is how they did us as slaves. When we served out our time as slaves for one owner, we got sold to another owner. That's how it worked. So we always working for a manufacturer. The number of slaves annually exported from Guinea now rose from year to year. Besides those wanted by the Portuguese for their own settlements in Africa, or sold by them to the Spaniards in the West Indies, great numbers of Negroes were also wanted for the Brazils, which have been lately discovered. The importance of that fruitful country, which for a long time remained a place of exile, was not known till about the middle of the 16th century. So they just tossed us around like rag dolls. All right, this is a book called Africa, being an accurate description of the regions of Egypt, Barbaria, Libya, and Beledogoride, the land of Negroes, Guinea, Ethiopia, and Abyssinia. And it goes on and on, as you can see here. This book was printed in 1670. 1670. This is a reprint. As you can see here at the top, it says 31. I'm going to try to make this out. Now, the writing is very, very small, so I got to zoom in with my camera just to read it. It's that small. You see, I got a magnifying glass right here. This is a big magnifying glass. But I'm going to zoom in with this camera. And it reads, many Jews also are scattered over the regions, some natives boasting themselves to be of Abraham's seed, inhabiting both sides of the river Niger. Others are Asian strangers who fled thither, either from the desolation of Jerusalem by Vespasian, who was a Roman, or from Judea, wasted and depopulated by the Romans, Persians, the Saracens, who were Muslims, and Christians, just like we read in another book, or as such as came out of Europe, whence they were banished out of some parts of Italy in the year 1342, out of Spain in the year 1462, out of the Low Countries in 1350, out of France in 1403, out of England in 1422. These all differ in habit and are divided into several tribes having no dominion, though both wealthy and numerous, but despised of all nations, and so abominated by the Turks, the Muslims, that they are not admitted to be Mohammedans unless first baptized. They have to give up their nationality and heritage of being Jews, and then no otherwise made use of them to receive their customs and gather in their taxes. So where were they living again? At the top, remember what it says? Many Jews also are scattered over the region, some natives boasting themselves of Abraham's seed, inhabiting both sides of the river Niger or Niger. This is in Africa. So all these Jews were dwelling in Africa that were expelled out of these different countries at various dates. Most of these dates are before the dates that we read in the other book. So all these Negro Jews were dwelling in Africa from the very Negroes they were descended from. This is page 222. So the very Negroes they were descended from were also Jews. Look at this, the country of the Jews, or kingdom of Simeon, which is Shem, Negro land. See that at the top? So all these were descended from Israel. All right, and this just shows you the locations where it's located. All right, down here, it lieth enclosed with mountains and deserts on the east, extending themselves to the Nile. What Nile? On the south to Congo. On the south to Congo. And the equinoctial line. In the west to the kingdom of Benin, and on the north over against Davina and Midra, a country but little known, unless conversed with and under the dominion on of the Abyssinians. So this country, the country of the Jews, was in West Africa, which is also called Negro land. See that? Here in the center of Colombia, which is a place of pagan origin.
Amigo, $1.
Look the other way there, station there.
Amigo, $1. Amiga, $1 para comer.
We're the Israelites. Remember that. We're the Israelites in the Bible.
Okay.
Say Israelites. Paloma. Paloma. We the Israelites.
Jean Paul.
Okay. Listen, down here in Colombia is the largest Negro and indigenous Indian brothers in the world. Down here in Colombia. Muchas gracias. No compra. Alright, so we have a lot of work to do. Man, we've been passing out flyers all over this place. Muchas gracias. No compra.
And the president.
No compra. Muchas gracias.
San Alberto.
Okay, I'm in front of another Catholic church, and y'all know the deal. Y'all know what I got to do. Right? I'm about to go dust my feet off. Take this. Gotta dust my feet off on this one. I saw it open a minute ago. Dust my feet off on this one too.
Lucifer, son of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth.
Catholic Church. You see the brother? It looks like the Pope, and he's pushing it on the nigga. You see that? Devil in disguise, pushing it on the 12 tribes. Look at his mouth, look at his eyes. False doctrine. Look at this. The devil and sheep's clothing. The devil and sheep's clothing. Saturated with Israelites. We're the people of the Bible. So in here it shows the captivity. You see the slave ships? We came on the slave ships. See? All the scriptures for the slave ships. Religion. No. Laws, statutes, commandments. No religion. No religion. Nationality. No Negro, no Espanol, Israelites. All of us. Total.
En
The
Colombia,
No. All of us. Israelites.
yo, en Colombia no.
Colombia too. We're the Israelites of the Bible. See that? This is counterfeit. These are the people. This is Amerigo Vespucci. That's Amerigo. You know that? Amerigo Vespucci.
En América eso.
There's him. So you say American. This is who you say your father is. You say Christopher Colombo.
Colombo afro.
Colombo your father. But that's not our father.
Está hablando de racismo.
It's a lie.
No me colo.
It's a lie. You not exactly. See, we're the Israelites that the Bible says.
Pero tú sí mi my color.
See.
Aquí en Colombia todo
12 tribes of
igual.
Israel, Judah,
Colombia,
Benjamin,
no
Levi.
problem. Raza.
Indigenous Indians, right?
Indígenas.
Indígenas.
I show you. You know, too close. You see,
Comprende. Está hablando de mucho racismo. Algo así.
Sí, o sea,
Mi amiga habla
how you
español.
know? How you know?
o sea, como que como traí,
Es racista. Está hablando de unas personas que son como muy racistas.
Aquí.
Él tiene un canal de
Hold
YouTube
on,
que
hold
habla
on.
sobre
ok.
See?
Watch.
Yo seguir su página.
Muchas gracias. Amor. All of me brothers. Where you from? Oakland, California. Oakland. Tupac? All right. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Hey, te cambio mi recuerdo. Never forget.
Esto va para Saya y Shimai One. Grábate el video, esto es un flow bien original. Sabes que tengo el estilo bacano, el estilo que pega, el estilo que suena. Cero racismo aquí en Cartagena, mucho flow.
Wakanda forever family, my color, and you listen to me. And you my friend, very cool at UOG. Rapper number one, and you security.
Hey, no al racismo, no al racismo. Todos somos color, por Dios, somos los mismos. Graba el video y súbelo por Instagram. Sabes que tengo el estilo matando la pista muy original, es ahí.
Sabes que aquí no aceptamos los racistas porque tú sabes que somos los primeros. Yo nunca me quedo en cero, que tengo el estilo de becales. Aquí todo y tico hacemos para José.
Hey, esto es mucho flow. My color, white, black, no importa. Welcome to Colombia, mi ciudad.
No blanco.
Hey, no blanco, solo negro.
Mira, Baito.
Haciendo música bacana, no blanco, no blanco, no blanco, no blanco, no blanco. Solo negro, mucho cash por los bancos.
Hey, you my color family. Yo sigo rapeando, yo me monto en el beat.
Hey, yo sigo rapeando y esto en la cena. No blanco, Cartagena.
Volví a Colombia que
No, it's okay.
it persecutes the Polish and
It's just so much history. I'm trying to soak it all in.
in Mexico is not the usual federal, but remember they changed the address. Some people say that
The Colombian school is correct in Panama. It represents the complete unity from Panama and it's only like a boat animal, like a jaguar or cobra in the same schools. And the emerald from Colombia, remember because
so they know the and when you
and the 12 tribes in the Bible, yes, the 12 tribes, the precious stones, emerald represent the Judah tribe. Jesus, yes, the Judah tribe. Yes, Jesus tribe. For that reason, it's important this stone in the Bible, okay? And continue with the Olmeca sculpture.
This is awesome. We're going to go Panama. Good package lines. And we're Colombia. And look at that. I got the 12 tribes. The Ark of the Covenant. 24 minutes. How about that? And it looks like Judah has emerald. That's right. See, I got the tribe of Judah on. Another girl. Ivory girl. Northern Lights. Aquamarine. And just the colors of the bird.
And here, sorry.
Yeah, I don't mind you talking. It helps me remember too.
Here continue with the family of the emerald. The stone of different color are the family of emerald because in the chemical composition have the same mineral beryl. Emerald is a kind of beryl, but only emerald is a beryl that green color or more famous in this group. The rest of the beryl have the different color because it's dependent on side. For the reason change the color and have different names. Because just the beryl is without color. The pure state of the beryl is this one, but it have more iron oxide, it's blue beryl, it's aquamarine. But if that more manganese oxide, it's a pink beryl. It depends on oxide, yes. You see the examples, aquamarine, morganite, the blue and pink beryl. Behind you see the yellow and red beryl, it's $65 and $1,000,000.
Which one do you find the most here in Colombia?
No, just emerald.
Oh, just emerald.
This
Okay.
one is in Utah, United States,
Okay.
maybe from. Maybe from Africa and Brazil, aquamarine.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
This way, please. Aquamarine beryl and oceanite. Oceanite just beryl. Yes. Just beryl, the white. Okay. Emerald different countries.
So the black beryl is from Africa.
We're the 12 tribes of Israel.
Word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.